Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Chairman, and I note many friends in the audience, and I appreciate your support. I read the Lancet series of papers with considerable interest, and there was a quote in there from one of the editors, Richard Horton, saying, "After age 2 years, undernutrition will have caused irreversible damage for future development." Now, I think that is an issue, and therefore I'm going to confine my remarks specifically to young women. And I believe that Lindsay referred to something which I think that the Lancet series rather missed a trick on, which is the importance of ensuring good nutrition for young women before they get pregnant, not afterwards. The World Vision Health Programme sets as their priorities for pregnant women adequate diet with iron and folate supplementation, for kids breastfeeding with appropriate complementary feeding with adequate iron, vitamin A supplementation, etc., etc. The question is, what is that adequate diet? And I believe that that is something that we need to thank nature for, because nature has provided an almost complete solution to this particular problem. And this is the solution. Something which provides a source of food that provides a whole series of multiple nutrient and vitamin and mineral mixtures, which is fully available to us and which we in fact can lift not off the shelf but we can use immediately today. The difficulty is that for many people in today's world, they're not eating sufficient fruit and vegetables. If your intake falls down to about 200 grams per head per day, then things like child mortality rise very rapidly, and undernutrition and stunting also occurs. And it's a very critical threshold which we need to seek to avoid. And therefore it's of paramount importance, I think, for us to ensure that young women get a good diet from a long time before they get married and consider having children. And what then is a well-balanced diet? Well, as far as AVRDC is concerned, I think we need to make it clear that we're concerned with a balanced diet and not something that is solely on vegetables. If you look now at the recommended nutrient intake for pregnant women in the first trimester, right at the beginning of pregnancy, that they need energy, but the energy sources which they're usually using cannot provide many of those vitamins and minerals which are required for good development of the fetus. If you are a meat eater, you're certainly getting some protein, but you're not getting many of the other things. The good thing is that pulses, and also that includes some of the green vegetables, are heavy in protein and many of these other things, but not particularly vitamin A. The embarrassing thing for me to announce to you is that the usual vegetables which we eat in our daily diet, cabbage, tomato, cucumber, etc., actually have almost no nutrition in them whatsoever. Much of that good nutrition has been bred out by the breeding companies in favor of firmness, taste, color, all of these other things that we like, but the nutrition is gone. It doesn't mean they can't have nutrition, they just don't have it at the moment. But nature is kind to us because she's also provided a huge source of additional vegetables which we can access, which are those on the bottom, which are absolutely nutrient dense and loaded with all of the nutrients and vitamins and minerals you could possibly want. But the tragedy is the amount of research on these particular vegetable crops is close to zero at present. And that's something that I hope that we can change as a result of this conference. Now, the World Vegetable Center, with the sort of Helen Keller example of which we helped precipitate to some extent in Bangladesh, believes that the answer to poor people getting proper nutrition is to grow their own. This is essentially a very small cost type of investment. A 6 by 6 meter plot, in which you're seeing several replicates on the slide at the moment, is sufficient to provide good vegetables for a family of 4 or 5 for a year. And all you have to add then is the basic rice or maize and potentially some meat and milk products, and you can then have a balanced diet. The sorts of things you get off that plot, normally you'd expect for me to show you yield data, you'd expect to show me economic data, but I'm not doing that because I don't want people to sell these crops, I want them to eat them themselves. So off this 6x6 plot, this home garden, homestead garden, whatever you want to call it, you can get, and this is now from large-scale trials in Jharkhand and in the Punjab done by AVRDC with Tata founding, we can produce 75% of the protein requirements for people, well over 100% of beta-carotene, and don't forget not all of that is available to humans, and therefore you have to take that into consideration. Same with vitamin C, about a quarter of the iron need. So if we have a complementary strategy with what Howie is doing, if you can add biofortified cereals to home garden legume production, vegetable production, then you have a chance to have a well-balanced diet without huge additional cost. But please note that you need to provide nutritional information, good recipes for these vegetables, food processing methods which allows the iron and protein to be available, so information and research is required. Each of these home gardens needs a separate distribution of vegetables according to people's tastes and needs, and can be then geared up. Now the question then is, if we accept that this is a viable strategy, where can people get seed? Well, the answer is very simple. You can get the seed from us at the World Vegetable Center. It can be either from the headquarters, from the gene bank, or from the regional offices. We have more than 400 species in the gene bank which we can call upon, which means that whatever environment worldwide in terms of the tropics you can come up with, I can find you a series of vegetables which will grow there satisfactorily. So we have a slogan now to go along with this idea, and I'd like to try it out on you. And our slogan is, not a green revolution, but a revolution with greens. And I believe that that is part of the solution now to the problems that we're having. I believe it can be scaled up very quickly. But I have to say to my friends in the audience, thank you for supporting our work. But to those donors in the audience not yet supporting our work, one of the problems that we have is that my hands have been shackled by underfunding for too long, and if I'm going to really make a contribution to this type of effort, you have to release me. And if you do release me, then I guarantee we will reach millions of undernourished families, and we can do something about it quickly. Thank you very much indeed.